Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Lishalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni Lishalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeietchem Lishalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. We're so glad to see you here, those of you joining us in person, of course, those that are joining us over the live stream. We are both celebrating Shabbat, celebrating Hanukkah together, and of course have the treat of a really exciting guest speaker, Alan Zweibel, who's here with us tonight, both here to speak with us during services and to continue afterwards, what will hopefully be a really lively Q&A and continued talks. We hope that you'll stick around and join us for that. We are going to begin tonight before lighting our Shabbat candles with the lighting of our Hanukkah candles.
The blessing on page
279.
Please join with us. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav. Shema אבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
And now that we have welcomed in the light of Hanukkah for the evening, we are to welcome in the light of Shabbat. So I'd like to invite up Frank and Julie Cohen to light our Shabbat candles.
English? First English. Do you want to do it in here?
Yes.
As we light these Shabbat candles, we link ourselves with the generations of our people who have kindled these holy flames. Time passes quickly, and we take this moment to pause and express our gratitude. We stand here as a family with humility and with love for this occasion, for one another, and for being a part of this sacred community. As we participate in this age-old ritual, we embrace this moment as we move forward in the cycle of our lives. Yesterday, we held our son in our arms, and tomorrow he will be called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. These Shabbat candles remind us only of the joy of this occasion, but they help us to see the light within one another and the strengths that each of us possesses. Grateful for all the precious gifts in our lives, we kindle the Sabbath lights. Go ahead. What do you mean? Take right there.
Oh, in the dark. Okay.
You can just pick up the whole thing. Whatever you want. Whatever's easier. And you'll say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'tzivanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
As we continue with our Kabbalat Shabbat this evening, we thought rather than singing the Psalms of Shabbat, that on this Shabbat Hanukkah, we would sing a Hanukkah medley. So not all of the words are in your prayer book, but most of them are. So you can turn to page 364, which has lots of Hanukkah songs. We're going to begin with Al Hanisim, all of the miracles, all of the things that happened during this particular festival, during this Festival of Lights, and in all of the days of our people, all of the miracles we celebrate. So we will ask you, this is a song we sing on both Hanukkah and Purim, and we'll ask you to sing with us.
Al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagvurot ve'al hatshuvot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh.
Let's try that again.
Al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagvurot ve'al hatshuvot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu bayamim ha'em bazman hazeh. Al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagvurot ve'al hatshuvot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu bayamim ha'em bazman hazeh. Al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagvurot ve'al hatshuvot ve'al hamilchamot הישועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
Page 365, Ma'oz Tzor, Rock of Ages. We join together.
Ma'oz Tzor Yeshuati Lecha la'el Shabeach Tikon beit tefilati V'sham toda nizabeach V'tachin matbeach V'tzar hamlabeach Az ekbor b'shir mizmor Chanukat hamizbeach Az ekbor b'shir mizmor Chanukat hamizbeach.
And it is still Shabbat after all, and so we do have to welcome the Sabbath bride into our midst. We turn back in our prayer books to page 20 and welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet ve'litila. Lecha dodi, Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori, uri shir daveri, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi, Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emuneh am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi,
We'll continue our Shabbat service this evening with Baruch Hu on page 146, and I'll invite you to please rise.
Yada-dai-dai-dai, 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 yada-dai-dai-dai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yada-dai-dai-dai, 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 yada-dai-dai-dai.
Continuing in the Hebrew, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chuchma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalith et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei hoshech, v'hoshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevir laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzemaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv aravim. Amen.
We'll read responsively on page 148. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world.
In each age we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment we stand face to face with Torah.
In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world
firm
on
on
a
a
foundation
of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך וניברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 151. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart and good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence, we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth and prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'porei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
As we pray for a shelter of peace over all of us and our community, we turn our prayers to those who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. We are thinking of Cindy Baker, Ed Goldberg, Alan Tilley, David Rothman, Tammy Schwartzberg, Shmuel Ben Rivka, Teresa Schlossberg, and Eliana Leora Bat Shoshana Leah. If there's anybody in your lives who are in need of a prayer for healing this evening, healing of the body or healing of the spirit, and you feel so inclined, I invite you to share their name out loud or to hold it in your heart. Baruch atah Adonai rofei hacholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals the sick.
Mi shebeirach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor havracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Continue with the blessings of the Amidah, page 155. I'll invite you to please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. And as we feel the warmth of community in here, we know that the world outside is not always filled with quite as much warmth. So we turn to pray for that thing that we need most, an abundance of peace in our world. Shalom Rav, page 164.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam.
So just earlier today, I was in a very intellectual conversation with one of our 4-year-olds here in our ECC, as she was explaining to me how it's getting darker earlier and how when she used to go to bed, it was light out, and now when she goes to bed, it's dark out. And made me think a little bit more about the way that we are in our Festival of Lights. We are celebrating Hanukkah at our darkest time during the year. So I'll share both dark, kind of time-wise and physically dark, and also a time that, while we have some light, is always still has a little too much darkness in it. So I'll share a Hanukkah prayer for a time of darkness. Creator of all, in the beginning you made the night sky luminous with the light of moon and stars, and you made the daytime bright with the light of the sun, and saw that it was good. And you created human beings in your own image, with capacity to distinguish dark from light, and with capacity to create holy sparks, see into the shadows and shine light where it is dark. And you saw that it was very good. Creator of all and Rock of Ages, in the time of the Maccabees, once more you worked a miracle of light, permitting our ancestors to rededicate holy space. And it lasted 8 days and 8 nights. Creator of all and Rock of Ages, in the dark of night, the darkest time of the year, we light candles in remembrance of the miracle. One more each night until there are 8. Creator of all and Rock of Ages, too many lights have been extinguished, and the world has grown too dark. Creator of light and dark, teach us once more to see into the shadows, to shed our light in all the dark corners, and to create holy sparks for all humankind, so that once more we say, it is very good. So during this time of year, when we not only light our Hanukkah lights, but work to bring that light into all corners of the earth, we'll take a few moments of silent prayer to reflect on the idea of light.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children. Give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand.
Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in. Let anger not tear us apart. Light one candle to bind us together with peace as the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out.
Happy Hanukkah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Happy Hanukkah. Folks, when I was 15 years old, this is how I wanted to come to services. My parents wouldn't let that happen. I just got off of a plane like a half hour ago from celebrating my 20th anniversary with Lauren, so please do excuse me. We wanted to be here. She deserves the hand, for sure. But I wanted to be here to make sure to extend warm welcomes to our guest speaker this evening. Before I do that, I want to extend a very hearty mazel tov to Mark Peroff, who's here with, of course, his wife Linda, who was celebrated and honored last night by the AJC. As I guess it's no longer incoming with the pandemic, you've probably been in the position for a few months already, but elected president of half of the state of New Jersey, succeeding Ed Israelo, who was also honored last night, and preceded by Janicia Kamen, who was, I guess, 2 presidents ago at this point. So the AJC and Bnai Jeshurun has an intrinsic and important connection, and Mark, we're really proud of your leadership and of what you're going to do in this next couple of years. So again, we are in for a real treat tonight. Alan, I get nervous that anytime I show up in front of someone like you, I'm going to become fodder for the next jokes that you're going to make, probably not here, but someplace else. Right here, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, an original Saturday Night Live writer, Alan Zweibel, has won 5 Emmy and 2 Writers Guild of America awards for his work in television, which also includes its Gary Shandling Show, which he co-created and produced, The David Letterman Show, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. A frequent guest on all of the late-night talk shows, Alan's theatrical contributions include his collaboration with Billy Crystal on the Tony Award-winning play 700 Sundays, Martin Short's Broadway hit Fame Becomes Me, and the off-Broadway play Bunny Bunny, Gilda Radner, a sort of romantic comedy, which he adapted from his best-selling book. All told, Alan has written 11 books, including the 2006 Thurber Prize-winning novel The Other Schulman, the popular children's book Our Tree Named Steve, and a field guide to the Jewish people that he co-wrote with David Barry and Adam Mansbach. His humor has appeared in such diverse publications as The New Yorker, Esquire, The Atlantic Monthly, The New York Times op-ed page, The Huffington Post, and of course, Mad Magazine. Alan is currently preparing his play Bunny Bunny for a return to the New York stage. His cultural memoir titled Laugh Lines, My Life Helping Funny People Be Funnier was recently published by Abrams Books, and a new movie he wrote with Billy Crystal called Here Today. That stars Crystal and Tiffany Haddish can now be seen on Amazon Prime and Apple TV, among other platforms. But the production that Alan is most proud of is the family he's co-produced with his beautiful Robin, their 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and a wedding coming up soon. One more word before you get up here, Alan. I might as well just take my shot before you do. About 13 or 14 years ago, as my first couple of years here as your rabbi, a lot of you know that I introduce prayers during the holy days with what's called in Hebrew an iyun. It's a way of setting a platform for a prayer. And when I was at Erev Shalom, I had found an incredibly moving piece by Gilda Radner that I had not yet shared with you, so I did my first couple of years. And it was before the Baruch Hu. I remember it clearly for some reason. 2 days later, I got to my desk, and Penny, who was my assistant, now retired, said, there's a big package on your desk. And there was a package of about, 7 or 8 books with a beautiful note by a guy named Alan Zweibel. And he said, you might not know me, but I was kind enough to be taken. Someone was kind enough to bring me to High Holy Day services, said some nice things about us and my sermon. He said, but the reason I'm writing to you is because you read something that was from my very best friend in the world, my writing partner and co-creator, Gilda Radner. And here's what she meant to me in the world, and I want to pay it forward by giving you some of these books that you might find interesting. I'd love to have lunch with you. We had lunch at the Milburn Diner, if I remember way back when, and he told me a lot of funny stories, probably some of which you'll hear tonight. But what I remembered immediately then, and then from seeing Robin, they hang out in the area. They're in Short Hills half the year in the old days, right? So Nero's and Goldberg's and all the places where the Jews hang out around here. I'd run into them every once in a while, and this is without really knowing them well, but when you sort of feel a soulful connection, is that there's real generosity and real connection to family and a real sense of doing what's right in the world. Why I feel that way, I don't know, because it's not like we've had longer conversations than that. But Robin and Alan, I felt that way. And the one thing that's not mentioned in here that touched me the most was the piece you did on CNN about Gilda Radner that you and Robin did, I want to say a year or so ago. And during the pandemic, when we all felt lost, that was something that gave me a great deal of light and hope and the work that you've done. So I know your family for lots of different reasons. It is my real pleasure to jump off the plane and be here. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Zweibel.
First, I want to thank Rabbi Matt for that very glowing introduction that I wrote, emailed it to him, and he got it all right, so good. I really love this service, by the way. I think what you guys, I'm really touched by it. And I was sitting there thinking, they want me to speak for about 20 minutes. I can't remember if they said 20 minutes or 2 hours. It was one of the two. And I'm thinking about, okay, how do I condense this? And the most I can say is the best way to do it is to tell you why I wrote this memoir. For years, I had been asked to write a memoir about my career. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to, and then I wrote this, and then I wrote that. I thought that that was boring. I was looking for an emotional reason to do it. And I might answer more questions when we have the Q&A later. I can get more anecdotal. But there were a couple of reasons, and they were human beings, and they were connection to human beings. And I'm going to tell you stories about them. So first of all, I'm a writer. As the rabbi said, I'm a comedy writer. I write for Broadway, TV, movies. I write books. And I find it very ironic that I am a comedy writer, because initially this was not my idea to become a comedy writer. This was a decision that was made for me about 40 years ago by every law school in the United States. I went to the University of Buffalo, late 60s, early 70s. I got good grades, but they made you take the law boards, the LSATs. I'm not quite sure how they grade them now, but back then they graded from 200 to 800. If you can write your name, you got a 200. If you were Einstein, you got an 800. If you were Alan Zweibel, you got a 390, which was like vegetable mentality. And I remember going home and telling my Long Island Jewish parents that I got a 390 in the law boards. And about a week later, this is after they uncovered the mirrors. That joke doesn't work everywhere, but I had a feeling. I just had a notion. My father gave me $1,000, which I then took and gave to a man named Stanley Kaplan. I see masks nodding. For those of you who may not know, Stanley Kaplan's a man who has these schools all over the country, and he teaches you how to take standardized tests, so I wanted to retake the law boards. And I gave him $1,000, and for 6 months, I had number 2 pencils, I had earphones, I was, learning, honing my test skills, and I retook the test, and my score catapulted up to a 401. And I figured at that rate, I'd be about 90 before I got into an English-speaking law school. So I started writing jokes for comedians who worked in the Catskill Mountains. This is the early 70s. And it was the tail end of the Catskills. The 50s and 60s were really the heyday. That's when the Buddy Hackett's and Alan King and Toady Fields and Red Buttons, that's what, the guys that, were left were the ones that I wrote for. Very nice guys who paid me $7 a joke to write for them. That was the going rate. Want to hear a $7 joke? I pray that I can tell this in a shul, okay? A comedian named Morty Gunty calls the house and says, Alan, they have a thing now called sperm banks. You think you can write me some sperm bank jokes? So I wrote, they have a new thing now called sperm banks, which is just like an ordinary bank, except here, after you make a deposit, you lose interest. Hey, $7, okay? Don't turn into a posse on me, okay? And then a couple of weeks later, another Catskill comic named Freddie Roman calls me up and he says, "Hey, I heard you write great sperm bank jokes." And I'm going, how the hell did I become this guy? All right. So I wrote for him. I said they're now freezing sperm, which I said could be a problem in the future because it's hard enough telling a kid he's been adopted. How do you tell him he's been defrosted, okay? So now we're up to $14, okay? To supplement this great living I was making as a comedy writer, I moved back into my parents' house after college, my old bedroom, my old bed, and to supplement it, I got a job in a delicatessen on Hillside Avenue in Queens. You name it, I sliced it for about 2 years. All my friends are at grad schools and med schools, and I'm writing for $7 a joke. And, these guys, were good comedians, but there was nothing distinct about them. The most they ever paid me was $18. I got chai for a joke that I wrote about a Hasidic orgy, which was really unusual because the men were on one side of the room and the women were on the other. I hated writing for them. It was fun. I used to see them when I was a little kid. Our parents took us to the Catskills, but they had no distinct personalities. They were just pure joke tellers. They weren't characters. And I wanted to write scripts, and I wanted to write for characters. And later on, it became a little easier when I wrote for guys like Rodney Dangerfield, who had that thing, I don't get no respect. So it was really easy to have him say, even as an infant, my mother wouldn't breastfeed me. She said she liked me as a friend. Okay, see, that was a lot easier. I'm going nowhere fast. I'm living at home, sleeping in my old bed. I'm working in a deli, $7 a joke. And I'm going, okay, where are the new Catskills? Where are the younger people? I grew up with Woodstock, and Nixon had just resigned, and Watergate. Where are the people who were talking about that? And there were 2 clubs in New York at the time. One called The Improvisation, the other one called Catch a Rising Star. And that's where guys like David Brenner and Robert Klein and my friend Larry David, Elaine Boozler, Lily Tomlin, they were a little older than me, but that was my generation. That was the language, that was my experience that I wanted to talk about. So what I did was I took the jokes those old guys wouldn't buy from me, and I made it into a stand-up act for myself. And my plan was to go on stage and deliver the jokes with the hopes that a manager or an agent would come in, like my material, and maybe want to represent me to become a television writer. The first week that I'm there, I meet a guy who's also just starting out. His name is Billy Crystal. He lived about 4 towns over on Long Island. We were in Woodmere, they were in Long Beach. And he would pick me up every night in his little blue Volkswagen. We'd drive into the city, tell our jokes, and on the way home, listen to the cassettes and critique each other. That joke worked, maybe if you did this joke that way, and we would critique each other. Let me just stay with Billy for a second. I'm going to go out of chronology here. He's Uncle Billy to my kids to this very day. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book. He wrote the foreword to it. This is about people. This isn't only about what I did. This is about people that I loved and influenced me. And Billy Crystal was like a brother. And we started out together in the car like that. And we never worked with each other. Years later, I shared an office with Billy and Larry David in LA, and was for the production company that Rob Reiner owned. Okay, Rob hosted the 3rd Saturday Night Live ever. And I'm working on a movie script. Billy opens the door one day. He says, listen, I'm thinking of doing a one-man Broadway show called 700 Sundays. Would you like to write it with me? For those of you who may not know that show, Billy's dad worked 6 days a week. Sunday was their day to spend together at ball games, the beach, whatever. And Billy's dad died suddenly when he was 15. So he calculated that he roughly had 700 Sundays with him, hence the title. And that was a highlight in my career. Yeah, we won a Tony Award, and I'm not poo-pooing that, but it's about the process. It's about the connections you make with people, and the fact that my good friend trusted me with his family, people I never met, to put words into their mouths and to put words into his mouths about them. Now, mind you, I'm a Jew from Long Island. He's a Jew from Long Island. It's not like these were Martians. I mean, I knew these people. It was like writing for my own family in a way. So it was easy for me to have them say, you know, they came over from Europe and they spoke mostly Yiddish, which is a combination of German and phlegm. Okay, that was really, but still, the fact that he trusted me with his family meant a lot. And most recently, like the rabbi said in the introduction, we did a movie together that stars he and Tiffany Haddish, and which is doing really well. There's a little bit of Oscar talk about it. And so that's one connection, okay? Let's go to another connection. I'm on stage one night. This is about 4 months into my experiment of doing my own material. And I get off the stage. I had the hardest time in the world making these 6 drunks from Des Moines laugh. I go to the bar. I'm waiting for Billy to get done so he can drive me home. And I'm like this, and a guy comes, sits next to me, and he just stares at me. He goes, you know, you're the worst comedian I've ever seen in my life. And I said, I really appreciate it because that's really helping my self-esteem right now. That's good going. He says, but your material's not bad. Did you write it? And I said, yeah. He said, could I see more? And I said, well, you bet. I mean, I didn't even ask who this was. At this point, they would have shown it to like a gardener, okay? Ends up, this is Lorne Michaels. This is April of 1975. He's going from club to club in New York looking for writers and actors for this new show that would premiere in the fall called Saturday Night Live. I go back to my parents' house on Long Island. I stay up for 2 days straight at my mom and dad's kitchen table, typing what I thought were 1,100 of my best jokes. Okay, and back then the typewriters were like this with the thing, and the ink was a whole to-do. 2 days later, I have to go for my meeting with Lauren, and I'm real nervous, never been to an interview before, and I go, oh, okay, I didn't even know how to dress. I'm going, young hip producer, young hip show. Oh, I know, I'll dress young, I'll dress hip. I wore my father's maroon polyester leisure suit, okay? I looked like a big blood clot sitting on the Long Island Railroad, going into the city. If memory serves, he was staying at the Plaza Hotel. Like I said, I was nervous. I had a 2 o'clock meeting, but I didn't want to be late. I got there around 7 in the morning. And this is 1975. There's no cell phones. I see a payphone. And I go and I call Billy Crystal. Billy had been spending time with Lorne. There was talk of Billy being part of one of the original Not Ready for Primetime players. So he knew the guy. I said, listen, I'm going to have a meeting with this guy, Lorne. Anything you can tell me about him to give me a leg up in this interview? He says, well, he's written for Woody Allen. He's produced Monty Python specials. Oh, and he hates mimes. Lorne hates mimes. I went, okay, got it. 2 o'clock, I go upstairs. I remember, I sit on the edge of the bed. I give him this tome that I had typed with 1,100 jokes. He opens it. He reads the first joke, and he goes, uh-huh. Then he closes the book. I'm up for 2 days straight, typing 1,100 jokes. He read one joke, and to show you how long ago this was from the reference points, I had written a joke saying that the post office was about to issue a stamp commemorating prostitution in the United States. 10-cent stamp. If you want to lick it, it's a quarter. The arc is closed, right? Okay. And he said, very good. How much money do you need to live on? I said, well, I'm making $2.75 an hour at the deli. Match it. And he said, well, tell me a little bit more about yourself, which I took to mean that before he committed to this kind of cash, he wanted to know what he was buying. So I remembered my call with Billy, and I said, well, I really like Woody Allen, and Monty Python I'm crazy about, but if there's one damn mime on this show, I am out of here. and he gave me a job, okay? That was the big break. You know, my dad manufactured jewelry, and his place was on 52nd Street between 5th and Madison. And when I would run errands for him, I'd always go, this is as a kid, by way of 30 Rock. It was then called the RCA building. It's now the Comcast building. I'd go through the lobby because Johnny Carson had the Tonight Show upstairs. And in the mid-'60s, if you remember, there was a show called That Was the Week That Was. There were people doing in that building what I wanted to do someday. And now I'm walking in to that same building for my first day as a comedy writer on a TV show. And I go up to the 17th floor. We go into Lorne Michaels' office, and I look around before the meeting starts, and there's John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and Lorraine Newman. And I had never heard of Second City. I was writing jokes for comics. All of a sudden, they were becoming characters, and they were doing little scenes, and they right in front of me on their feet. And I'm going, my God, this is brilliant. I had never seen anything like it before. There's no way that I can measure up to these guys. So what I did was I looked around, and in the corner of Lauren's office was a big potted plant. I went behind the plant, and I squatted down. Biggest day of my life. First day, first meeting as a comedy writer. I'm squatting behind a plant. The meeting starts, and all of a sudden I hear from the other side of the plant a girl say, "Can you help me be a parakeet?" I parted the leaves. I looked out, and it was Gilda. I went, "What?" She said, "Yeah, I think it would be really funny if I stood on a perch and, it squinched up my face and spoke like a parakeet, but I need a writer to help me figure out what the parakeet should say. Are you a good parakeet writer?" I had no idea what she was talking about, but at least somebody was talking to me. I said, "I'm a great parakeet writer." And she said, "Good, good. How come you're hiding behind the plant? You nervous?" I said, "Yeah, a little." She said, your first TV show, Alan?" I went, "Yeah. How do you know my name is Alan?" She said, "You're the only one wearing a name tag." She said, "Look, is there any more room behind the plant?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She says, "Well, it's also my first TV show and I'm nervous." So I scooched over, she came around. Now we're both squatting behind the plant. And that's where I met my friend Gilda, is the second connection I will tell you about. We got to know each other behind that plant. We made each other laugh, got to know each other a little bit. While this meeting is going on, we even had our first fight back there. She said, "Do you want some gum?" I said, "Yeah." And she hands me a pocketbook the size of the Beamer, okay? And she says, "Just take some." I said, "It's in there?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "I can't do that." She said, "You said you wanted gum. Just open the zipper, stick your hand in, take out gum. There's plenty of gum." I said, "I cannot do that." She asked why. I said, "Because I'm a boy and you're a girl, and there may be some things inside of that pocketbook that will eventually end up inside of you. I'm a writer with a very vivid imagination, so yes, I do want gum, but can you please serve it to me?" She said, "You're Jewish, aren't you?" I said, "A little." She says, "No, you're like a major Jew." And we had this tug of war with the pocketbook, and all of a sudden Lauren is going, "Okay, Alan, where's Alan? I saw him here before." And she says, "He wants to hear your ideas for sketches. Do you have any?" I said, "Yeah, but they stink, and I don't like talking in front of people." She said, "I'll take care of it." So she goes around in front of the potted plant, and she indicates me, and she goes, "Why, Bella's got this great idea where I play a parakeet." She attributed her idea to me. And she said, "He's got all these great ideas, and we're going to be writing partners and platonic friends forever." Now, the writing partner part I was thrilled with, because while we were there on SNL, we created characters like Emily Latella and Rosanna Dana, and so we did some good work together, but I was in love with her. And I've always felt that at that age, a platonic relationship, one person doesn't want it to be platonic. But you go, okay, if these are the rules, I'll play by them, but one day you'll open your eyes and you'll see the glory that's before you, okay? We started this show. We won some awards. Like I said later at the Q&A, happy to tell you all sorts of stories if you ask questions. And I stayed with the show for 5 years. Gilda moved to Los Angeles. She married Gene Wilder. I decided to stay on the East Coast, where I started living a situation comedy. My life became a sitcom. I stayed in New York. I married my wife, Robin, who, as the rabbi said, is this beautiful girl. I met her on SNL, but we fell in love and we got married, but we made the mistake in thinking that Jews from Long Island and Jews from New Jersey were the same species. They're not. They have different rules, who pays for what at the wedding. And our parents never discussed it. They just assumed that their own rules applied. So at our wedding, we had no flowers and 2 bands, okay? Me and Robin took an apartment in the city. We started having a family. And like I said, Gilda, my good buddy, moved to California. And there was no internet, there was no emails, so it became Christmas cards and occasional phone calls, and the 3-hour difference became a thing when she was on a set doing a movie. And then I went to LA to do a pilot for a show called It's Gary Shandling's Show. And I was out there by myself. Robin and the kids were here. We had a house in North Caldwell. And I went to LA, and I figured, oh, this would be a really good time for me to revive my platonic friendship with Gilda. And I would call her, and she'd say yes. And at the last minute, she'd break the date. This happened 2 or 3 times. I called Robin. I said, I don't think Gilda wants to be my platonic friend anymore. And I told her what I just told you. About 10 minutes later, Robin calls me back, and she says, call Gilda. Call her right now. I said, why? She said, just call her. And I do. I go, what's going on? And she said, I haven't been feeling well. I said, what's wrong? She said, I have Epstein-Barr virus. Do you know what that is? I said, yeah, it's like mono, right? She says, I'm telling you, Zweibel, my head wants to do everything we always used to do, but my body just won't let me do it. I said, well, what do the doctors say? Well, the doctors say it's definitely Epstein-Barr, and it's got to run its course. When are you coming back out here? I said, well, if this pilot becomes a series, I'll come back. I'll go home to see Robin and the kids, come back in 6 weeks, hire a staff, and start this series. She says, call me when you come back. Went back to North Caldwell. That's where our first house was. And 6 weeks later, I'm moving into a rented house in LA. And I don't know if you know this about Hollywood, but it's a little status conscious, okay? This might come as a shock to you. I rent, and your status in the community can be affected by whose house you bought or you rented. I rented a house from Larry Fine from the Three Stooges. He was my landlord. Okay, the wall in the living room had a dent in it. I went, oh, Mo must have done that, okay? This place is like a landmark. I'm telling the big burly guys where to put the rented furniture, when all of a sudden I hear a girl's voice at the front door, like a welcome wagon with a housewarming gift. I go, hi, Zweibel. And it's Gilda, and she's holding a big potted plant. And she comes in, and we put it in the corner, and I look at her, and I go, you look beautiful, honey. How do you feel? She said, Zweibel, I just found out I don't have Epstein-Barr virus. I said, great, we can go to Laker games, we can go to movies. She says, I have cancer. I said, what? She said, I have ovarian cancer, Zweibel, and I need you to help me get through this part of my life. And I said, what do I do? And she said, make me laugh. And that was my role in my friend's life when she got sick. Okay, if you went to her house where she lived with Gene Wilder, who have pictures of me and Robin and our 3 kids. Martin Short and his wife and 3 kids. The director Harold Ramis and his wife and kids. Only wanted to laugh, only wanted to think about being optimistic and the future. That was my role, to the point where I would call her, I would tell her jokes, on the phone. Gary and I would do an episode every week, send it to her like a Hallmark card, and she wanted to come on the show. And we were taking a walk on a beach in Santa Monica one night, and she said, and she was nervous because she said, I don't know if your audience is going to recognize me because I haven't been on TV in a while, and she looked different. And just I was about to say, don't be silly, she says, but you know something? I have to do your show. My comedy is the only weapon I have against this thing. And just like the rabbi mentioned before, that piece that I did with Robin called Love Gilda, that documentary, she said, Zweibel, can you help me make cancer funny? Which is a sentence you don't hear a lot. And I remember the night we did the show, there's 300 people in the audience. They don't know she's going to come through that door. Gary's doing a monologue, and when she knocks on the door and comes in, and Gary says, hey, everybody, it's Gilda Radner, I never heard a response to this very day as I heard that night. Laughter, applause, and then it got really emotional, to the point where when I went to edit the show, situation comedies are usually shot by 4 cameras shooting the same scene. Then in the editing room, you take the angles you want, you put it together like a jigsaw puzzle, you have a coherent show. And the shot of her walking through the door, the frame, the picture was jumping just a little bit, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I remember the night that we were shooting the show, that cameraman was crying, and that was his hands trembling. So if you ever see that repeat, look for it. It's not really blatant, it's subtle, but I left it in as a tribute. And it did her really well. And she got better, and then she didn't get better. And my role was still to make her laugh, my platonic friend, to the point where I went to Cedar Sinai to give blood, and I was on the gurney, and a nurse hands me a pad and a pen. I go, what's this? She says, well, Gilda likes to know whose blood she's getting. Write her something nice. She's having a tough time. So I wrote, Dear Gilda, I knew I'd get some fluid of mine into you one way or another. Which I thought said it all. This is where writers are lucky. When I lost my best friend, my wife Robin said to me a few years later, you should write something about you and Gilda. And I go, I don't want to capitalize on that friendship. She says, to hell with that, your best friend died, you haven't cried yet. What writers are able to do is stick their pens in their hearts, okay, and relive, recapture a feeling, a moment, a scene. And I wrote a book called Bunny Bunny, where if you look at it, it's just she talks, I talk, she talks. There's no paragraphs. There's no I didn't want the formality of that. I just wanted the words to touch each other again. So that was another reason I wrote this book, to get back in touch with Gilda. I don't have time to tell now because I understand you have a service to conclude. But if it comes up during Q&A, the third person I wrote it for was Gary Shandling. And, you know, I keep on saying, 20 minutes isn't enough. Let me keep going. I'm a lot funnier than the Olenu. Trust me. But you guys ready? It's true? Well, thank you very much, okay?
Right. Thank you very much. And there is more of that. I'll encourage you. We're going to wrap up the service. And Alan's books are for sale right after services. And also, we encourage you to stick around. Q&A afterwards. He'll be joining us back in here after a little oneg and book sales. So we hope that you'll join us. It's also really hard to follow that, but it is also our first Shabbat of the month, which is our birthday and anniversary blessing. So if you are celebrating an anniversary or a birthday in the month of December, yes, we are in December, I invite you to please rise. So, as it is the case that, yes, we are in December, and it's the end of our secular calendar, a time to naturally think about endings and new beginnings as well, the things that we want to leave behind in this year and those that we want to take into our new year. And in our Jewish calendar, we are also heading into a new month, the month of Tevet, which is an interesting month for a couple of reasons, but one in particular, that the month of Tevet is one of the more challenging months in our Jewish calendar, reflected in the history of the Jewish people. It's during this month that the walls of the first and second temple were breached, and that struggle is part of the cycle of what this time in our Jewish year means. Yet there's a Kabbalistic teaching that, although dark and difficult, this month symbolizes and serves as something more important, which is our opportunity to grow. So as you enter the beginning of this new year, whether in your life or whether in your relationship, may we remember that you will always continue growing, gaining new perspectives, absorbing knowledge, and cultivating experiences. May we deepen our relationships in our communities, in our families, and in our partnerships. And may we take each moment as an opportunity to grow, most importantly, in ourselves. So with prayers for growth and continued learning and cultivating and developing in each aspects of our lives, we'll say the words that we've said for generations, blessing special moments like this one, the words of Shehachianu, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehachianu v'kiyamanu v'hikianu lazman hazeh. We praise you, Adonai, and we thank you for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this day in the cycle of your lives. Amen. And we'll continue with the words of Aleinu, so we'll invite everybody else to please rise. And Aleinu can be found on page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Please be seated. We now come to the words of Mourner's Kaddish, the words that honor the lives of those in our families and our communities whom we have lost. As part of honoring their memories, when you hear the name of a loved one, if you feel so inclined, we invite you to rise to honor their memory. This Shabbat, we are in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, remembering Leo Pearl Glazer, John Kessler, Ruth M. Hausner Rowley, Fred Garbowitz, Arnold Becker, Karen Lowenstein, Rose Rothman, and Daniel Bissino. It's the yard site, the anniversary of the passing of Seymour Blitz, Morris H. Cohn, Hyman Dykman, Florence B. Einsohn, Eugene Elson, Ben Feinberg, Clara Wachter Feldman, Leo Gold, Leah Goldberg, Lance M. Golden, Howard Grad, Fred Greenstein, Regina Baba Gronwald, June Silver Harris, Louis Israelo, Esther Benish Kaiser, Oscar Kessler, Corrine Lewis Keel, Shirley Kimmel, Abraham Klein, Lena Klein, Jacob Lehman, Johanna Lewis, Rochelle Lipton, Lewis London, Lippman Lowenstein, Harry H. Lowenstein, Edith Lubowit, William Manasseh, Ruth Manschel, Mildred Keller Marks, David K. Marks, Rosa Holzner Marks, Henrietta Matz, Alfred Mayer, Eugene Mercy, Joseph Nathan Myers, Sophie Moore, Samuel Moore, Louis Nuttleman, Elias Osberg, David Paroff, Rose Petros, Emmanuel Ray, Paul Sandler, Beverly Lucille Saperstein Hertzoff, Robert J. Scher, Ben Scher, Marvin Schneiderman, Rose Schwartz, Dr. John D. Schinberg, Rose Harris Slifkin, Cecile Herman Smith, Louise Milstein Spivak, Edward Stevens, Nathan Toll, Leonard William Zonstecker, and Alice L. Zucker. We rise as one sacred community as we recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, huya say shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Please be seated. And
as make sure I'm turned on here. As we turn to the conclusion of our service, we, because of the hour, are going to direct you to your orders of worship for any exciting upcoming events. There's lots going on in the next couple of months and weeks, so please do take a look, including exciting adult education opportunities. But most importantly, tomorrow morning we have a young person who is going to be called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah, and that begins this evening. So Charlie Cohen, we're going to invite you up to lead us in Shabbat evening Kiddush and Motzi. Yes, just put your binder right here. Before you begin, Charlie, I'm going to pour some grape juice into this Kiddush cup. This Kiddush cup is for you. It is a gift from our congregation's Women's Association and Brotherhood, and it is for you to keep. We hope that you will use it not only tonight, but for all the happy occasions that will follow. First, you're going to bless, then you're going to drink. So we want to give this to you as a gift to say, Mazel Tov. We know that you have worked so hard and that you're going to be excellent tomorrow morning. And to kick that off, please begin with Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri gafen, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza v'anu, v'shabbat kodesh b'ahava u'v'radzon, hinchilanu zikaron la'maaseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila, li mikveh kodesh, keher liziot mirahim, Kivanu v'chota, v'atanu kidashta, t'mo ha'amin, v'shabbat kodesh, ahava u'razon, hinchatanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat.
Amen. Just take a sip of this. And finally, this is for you to keep too. You can take this and have it as a snack after, but first you're going to say the blessing. Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'motzi lechem min ha'aretz.
Amen. Give that to you.
And just a reminder, everybody, grab an oneg if you would like to get a book signed, and then feel free to join us back in here for Q&A and continue time with Alan.
Shabbat shalom and happy Hanukkah.